Check 1, 2.
Curious about real estate?
Yes!
Then you've come to the right place. Get the knowledge you need, get over the fear, and get started. This is the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show with your host, Michael Quarles.
Hello everybody, Michael Quarles with podcast number 150. Today we have 10 questions sent in by real estate investors, and I'm going to try my best to answer them. Question number 1. Once you get a property under contract and begin the process of reselling it on the MLS, do you have to search and find a real estate agent in the property's area that has specific experience in selling subpar condition properties to cash buyers? It's my assumption that most real estate agents are comfortable working with traditional buyers who have to purchase via conventional loans, which require the subject property to meet the loaning agency's condition criteria. Actually, we make it a little bit easier than it may seem because we're buying a BPO. And keep in mind, BPO agents they were born out of the foreclosure and REO industry. Lenders needed agents on the ground who could go out and do PPOs for them. And then they would give those agents their REO listings. So a BPO agent is very, very familiar with a distressed property situation. That's what they were selling when they were selling REOs or selling REOs currently. So it's pretty simple. BPO, hire that agent. Now we use a national company to find our BPO agents because we're buying all over the place. We don't know all the areas. And it's worked out really well. And in the beginning, we were looking for them ourselves and spending way too much time doing that. And as they say, time is money. So consider using a national service and going from there. Question number 2. Do you ever purchase properties from wholesalers to resell on the MLS? I think we have one contract that we got from a wholesaler, but I other than that, I can't ever remember doing it. Would I do it? Absolutely. I mean, if it made economic sense, I'd buy off the MLS if it made economic sense. So, yeah, we would do it. If you guys have properties, send them our way. Question number 3. If the seller wants to stay in the house after close, how can we structure the deal? I'm not even going to give advice on that one because I don't believe that you should allow someone to stay in the house, especially the seller of the property, because you could lead yourself into all kinds of trouble after that. Doing that, they could come back to you and say, oh no, I thought it was a loan. I didn't realize I was selling my property. And all that kind of good stuff. Man, our job is to buy properties and then resell it to somebody else. And it's hard to sell it to somebody else if the seller's still there. Now, and there are those occasions when you want to close it to get title, and you may do a per diem fee to the seller, but that's when you know absolutely for certain that the seller's moving. And you may, in a case where you want to get title and the seller wants to stay there 2 weeks after close because of whatever, and you want to get it closed, you might retain or hold back the funds to the seller until they do vacate. So you want to make it harsh on them, and then you may want to do a per diem fee that's pretty large for every day they stay there in excess of what they've agreed to, and have that subtracted from the stuff. But again, I think at the end of the day, the only time I would want to do that is when I know that I have a considerable amount to lose if I don't do it. But have I ever done it? Gosh, no. I don't think I ever have. I've allowed tenants to stay in and mitigated that with the price reduction to the seller and gone through the eviction process. And if you let the tenant stay in, then you want to figure about 3 months worth of holding costs and then $750 for the eviction service. But yeah, I don't think I feel real uncomfortable about the property owner staying there. Question number 4. You mentioned that you are traveling. You're direct mail marketing through geographical areas, i.e. mail to one city for a while, then a mail to another city for a while, and then eventually rotate back to the original city on a 90-day cycle. Is there an advantage to marketing in that manner versus sending out the same total volume of mail to all marketing areas? The only reason I do it, quite frankly, is because I can't afford to do it the other way. My list is too large, and if I could, I would absolutely do it on a monthly basis. But I'm finding it's working out fine for me doing it the way I'm doing it. But you guys got to remember that we're spending a lot of money on marketing, way too much money in marketing. No, it's not too much like it's like too much. too much, as in if I could spend more, I would. So, because this business is all about marketing. So, question number 5. I have my second property under contract. Congratulations. What percent should I assume for a close rate? 50%? No, it's an 80-20 rule. So, 20% of it's going to fall out, 80% of it's going to close. And you should always kind of figure that. What you don't want to do is count on a closing, because that one will never happen. So don't live for a closing. Don't put all your chickens in the same basket on a closing, because boy, they're tough if they don't close and you've relied on it heavily. Question number 6. I'm setting up my systems for lead capture from inbound calls. What product company do you suggest for beginning wholesalers? Excel spreadsheet for the beginning. We use Infusionsoft, and I was going to launch the Infusionsoft product that we built, where it has all the call capture and all the systemization on all the direct mail and all the lead follow-up and the round robins and all kinds of good stuff inside of it. And I pulled that back. I'm still toying with whether or not I want to release that product or not. But you never know. Question number 7. I'm curious on why you choose wholesaling versus assigning contracts. Well, besides assigning a contract is illegal, it's acting as a real estate agent without a license. And that's probably the biggest fact. And the second one is I can make more money buying and selling wholesaling than I can by assigning a contract. Assigning a contract, you typically are only going to make 10% of the potential profit that the end user or the end investor is going to make. Well, when you wholesale it, you're selling it on the open marketplace where most of the investors go. Most investors don't know to buy an assignment contract. They think they have to hire a real estate agent to find them a house. So that's where I want to put my property, because I want to make all the money and I want to break any laws. In California, you can only assign 8 contracts a year without violating the law, and I'm sure that most states have that thing. So just choose to do business legally.
Thanks for listening to Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip. We'll be right back. Are you running out of leads? It's time you tried Yellow Letters at yellowletters.com. Get motivated seller leads through yellow letters, postcards, zip letters, typed professional letters, greeting cards, door hangers, and business cards. Yellow Letters is a full-service marketing company created with your success in mind. Get the personal attention you need to get your direct mail campaign started, and get in touch at yellowletters.com.
And we are back in 3, 2, 1.
Question number 8. What is a reasonable offer? Do you make an offer based upon a percentage of ARV minus repairs, like the old-fashioned way? Or do you make an offer based upon a set of amounts of profit less your buy cost, hold costs, and sales costs? I'm finding that we are in a pretty competitive market right now, so how do I strengthen my offer? Well, we don't use the old way of the ARV, because we look at everything as is. We have a method for determining as-is value, keeping in mind that our BPO is instructed to give us an as-is BPO value, and our appraisal always does. So the only time an appraiser would give you an ARV value appraisal is if it's new construction or there is construction going on. Then, of course, they're going to have some assumptions of the future and something that's going to happen. But we instruct the BPO agent to give us an as-is, and the appraiser is always going to give us an as-is value. And then we are taking prior to that point, naturally, we have negotiated with the seller, and we'll negotiate the sellers anywhere between 50% and 70% of a formula that we have made ourselves. And sometimes the sellers will offer us less than 50%, which we'll take as well. We just don't do it on purpose. I think it's unethical to negotiate less than 50%. But if someone wants to sell me their house for 40% or 30%, I'm absolutely going to buy it. And when you look at what your business model is, you have to determine, based upon how much advertising you're doing and your overhead and your wealth requirements, what your minimum per transaction is going to be. And then how many transactions can you physically do? So you can, lead generate, lead capture, lead fulfillment. But if you can only fulfill 2 deals a month and you want to own a Bentley, well, you're going to have to make a lot of money per deal kind of thing. But if you can, you can close and do 15 deals a month or 40 deals a month or 60 deals a month, you can make less per deal. I don't want to position myself that way. I don't think that volume says that I can make less per deal. Not in the real estate business. I might do that in the print business, but not in the real estate business. I want to, when I look at how much my minimum is going to be on a real estate transaction, I want it to make sense whether I do 1 or if I do 50. So you have to figure that one out for yourself and go from there. But there's formulas that we use here inside of our system. That system I was talking about when someone else asked the earlier question, that thing's pretty awesome. I mean, I'm real proud of it. It does everything that we need it to do. We've hooked it in. We use Ring Central for our calls center, and it feeds into Infusionsoft. We use I don't know if you've been to the website lately, but we use a chat service that feeds into Infusionsoft. We use a text service that feeds into Infusionsoft. We use a pop-up window that feeds into Infusionsoft. Naturally, have Outlook feeding into it. All of our scripts. When the moment the phone rings on the Alex computer, because we're using computer phones, the computer pops the Alex script up. So once they answer the phone, it's already told the seller they're being recorded. And it pops up the screen. They go through the process, and they tag it. Did we make an appointment? That goes onto the Ryan calendar if an appointment's made. If it's not made, they'll go into the follow-up system for all these emails and what have you that gets done, and the 15, 30, 60, and 90-day follow-up by the Alex. So there's really some really cool stuff that happens inside of that product that we put together. But as far as reasonable offers, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want your offer to be so tight that there's no money there. You don't want to be busy. You don't want, we're trying to get rid of a job, not create a job. And I whether your market's, packed full of investors or not, stand by your number. I mean, I've always believed that if you wait for a deal, the deal will come. It's better to wait for the money to arrive than it is to go chase the money on some of these slim deals. And you might as well just be a real estate agent if you're going to do some slim deals and you just make 1.5% or 3% on the listing side. So I know I'm talking all over the place on this question, but question number 9. Where is the best place to find private money to fund deals, and what do you think is a win-win talking about percentages to investors? As soon as you guys know that answer, let me know. There's so many rules and regulations about private money and what you can and can't do and all those kinds of good things. The win-win, of course, there's different win-wins for every situation. Sometimes you'll just borrow money. Sometimes you'll bring in a partner. Sometimes that partner will be the seller. Sometimes you can't find the money and you can't do the deal, so you'll kick the deal because of that. But where do you find the money? Man, it's everybody you know, but make sure you know them. You can't know of them and ask them for a loan. You have to know them. You have to have a business relationship or personal relationship with them. But there are some really strict guidelines, and I don't want to lead anybody in the wrong direction on them. So that would be a great attorney question. If you find an attorney that knows the answer, let me know that one too. And that's one of the things in business that that we ought to be working on full time is having the money available. And at a 1Z, 2Z, 3Z level, you don't need a lot of money. When you buy, I want to buy 1,000 houses next year. I know I'm crazy. I need a lot of money for that. So, I think that's a full-time job for somebody to do nothing but create relationships. And now I'm a broker, so I have a little bit easier time with those relationships because I can legally talk to somebody. But other than that, great question. When you know the answer, let me know that answer too. Question number 10. What do you suggest to do with return mail? I put it in the trash can. It's not even worth determining if that's a good address or the reason for the return mail or whatever at my level. Now, some people that aren't doing enough marketing, any of those pieces that come back that say vacant house, man, don't throw that one in the mail if you're not doing a lot of marketing. Go drive by, see if it's truly a vacant house, and then try to find the seller or the owner. But here's what happens with the post office. And a lot of people don't realize this. You get a list from, say, ListSource, and it has the seller or the owner's mailing address. As a mail company, the post office requires us to run that list through the NCOA system to update the address for the owner. So if Billy Bob said he lived at 123 Apple Street and he moved and now he lives at 456 Orange Street, and my list hasn't picked that up yet, that change of address, running it through the NCOA system will grab the new address so I can now send Billy Bob on Orange Street the right piece of mail instead of having that returned. But even though that the post office requires and it's their update system, it's kind of an old system, even though it's brand new for the post office. And the reason I think it's an old system is because there's so much physical work that the post office does with a mail piece by an individual, not by a system, not by a computer scan, not, an actual individual, that if the postal person is, they get their bundle of mail and they're sorting in their little cubicles, and they don't recognize it, or they're going so fast and they know it's junk mail, they're just going to put it in a bucket and say undeliverable, no such address kind of stuff, where we know that there's an address because the post office gave us that address. And so if I took that address off my mailing list because I got it back when I know it's really an address because the post office is telling me it's an address, and then I went and send it again, and if I send it again, I may get it delivered because the chances of the postal person doing the same thing on the same address twice is pretty slim. And then I'm a believer in prosperity and abundance, and that's not an act of an abundant or prosperous person. There's always a rule of waste, and you got to figure that in life. And so it's a calculated waste cost, and we fall forward. Great questions. I really appreciate the opportunity, guys, to have done 150 podcasts with Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip. We started a little over a year ago. I think this is our 13th month. And gosh, that means I've been doing a podcast every 2.5, 3 days. That's pretty cool. I've enjoyed them. I've enjoyed, getting to know those people that have written in on a consistent basis. And of course, naturally, the coaching students that I have. I have a couple of announcements. I told you guys there was going to be some announcements on podcast 150. There's two mainly. First, and I apologize to those that will get a little frustrated on this announcement, but podcast number 150 will be the last podcast. And of course, the word "the last" is a big word. It implies that it'll never happen again. And although I use the word "the last," I can't say for certain another podcast won't happen again. But I don't see it happening again, at least for quite some while. And the other thing is my coaching program is going to absolutely close on the 30th this month. That's 3 more days. And so the ultimate coaching program over at Buy, Sell, Fix, Flip is stopping on September 30th. Naturally, if you're already a coaching student, it's not stopping for you because we're going to be talking for a long time. But we're not bringing anybody on after that time. So if you've thought about it, you've got a couple days to go ahead and pull the trigger. And I understand if you don't. What I'm going to do to kind of help those people that want to learn a little bit more, like my style of being direct. I can tell you I was super direct with one of my coaching students this weekend, and I think I made him mad at me, and I apologize to him, and hope he can put water under the bridge. But my directness sometimes gets me in trouble, and when I recognize it, I say I'm sorry, because I'm not perfect all the time. Until next time, you guys take care. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Michael Quarles Real Estate Show. Get more info and stay in touch at michaelquarles.com.